Veiled by nomadic fogs and uncertain mists, some of the planet's most concealed corners throb with life. Clouds may appear to be merely beautiful, ever-changing phenomena of the weather, but they are much more than that. They are, in fact, the difference between life and death. Between the most sterile, solitary desert and the lushest forest bustling with life. Here in the middle of the great terrestrial ocean, clouds act as curtains that, when drawn back, reveal an ancient, vibrant, and unique forest. Every corner of this fire-loving forest buzzes with flora and fauna especially adapted to the extreme environments created on the various islands of the archipelago. Flowers, insects, lizards and birds all share the singular landscapes shaped by the Canary pines. The Canarian pine forests grow only in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. This pine, endemic to the Canary Islands, is found on the more rugged islands of Gran Canaria, Tenerife, La Gomera, La Palma, and El Hierro. The Canary Island pine originated on the ancient shores of the Tethys Ocean 135 million years ago. It's a living fossil that has survived the years clinging to the rocky escarpments of the Canary Islands. This pine is found in many places, having conquered a wide range of territories. The Canary pine can withstand the extremes of heights of over 2,300 meters and landscapes that dissolve into the ocean. Its hardy, pioneering character allows it to withstand brutally cold ocean clouds and cruelly arid lava fields alike. But it's not the only living thing to flourish in such varied and inhospitable places. The Canary pine forest creates around it a complex environment full of the most daring wildlife. However, the pines carefully control what is around them, preventing other plants capable of tolerating such harsh conditions competing for the same resources. This volcanic territory is only suitable for the bravest and best suited. Pine needles are almost indestructible and accumulate in a dense, acidic carpet, which stops most other vegetation from growing. Yet in spite of everything, some species manage to flower between the pines or in clearings. Their roots penetrate the volcanic soil in search of the nutrients and water that the ancient rainforest causes to be stored there. Strange plants, unique to the Canaries, thrive among the volcanic rock, ash and pines. Euphorbia, matiola, aeonium, figworts, and Lotus pyranthus. This vegetation is the first link of an intricate and complex ecological network that a multitude of insects make the most of. Ants are everywhere in this singular and exclusive botanical garden, and visit the flowers rich in alimentary possibilities. Various species of lizards make their home in the rockiest, warmest pine forests, such as these western canaries or Gallet lizards. These small lizards are extraordinarily well adapted to their arid home. Their scaly skin is waterproof and prevents water being lost through evaporation. A further and less common adaptation is their diet, which allows them to ingest water in a way that is unusual among lizards. They feed on mature figs, juicy shoots, and the fruits of all kinds of plants. Thus they both eat and hydrate at the same time. Western Canaries lizards inhabit the pine groves of Tenerife and La Palma. Sporting striking blue scales, males are always larger and may measure more than 30 centimeters in length. Although they are good insect hunters, they seek out any fruit that is in season, expanding their diet, which may be almost exclusively vegetarian. Clouds come and go on the higher territories, conditioning life for these large lizards, which need the heat of the sun for them to be warm enough to be active. And to promote digestion. Other reptiles, such as the skink, are also endemic and will barely move a muscle until their bodies reach the required temperature. Everything here depends on the clouds, whose presence and intensity varies according to the season of the year. It is the highest terrain of the Canary Islands that the pines cover most of. Pine forests constitute 60% of woodland in the Canaries archipelago. And healthy populations of Canary Islands woodpeckers are vital to these forests. Now, in spring, the forest rings out with their mating calls. The nests they abandon each year are occupied by other species of birds, such as blue tits. These forest birds raise their chicks on a varied, tasty protein diet in the form of insects. Despite occupying the apparently unassailable trunk, blue tits are rightly wary of ravens, knowing that they feed on all types of food, including the chicks and eggs of other birds. It's best to head away from the nest until the carnivorous raven also decides to leave. Ravens are common pine forest neighbors. They find this a comfortable and varied ecosystem in which they can feed with relative ease. On higher land, the pines acquire an even more important ecological role. Clouds penetrate the mountain forests, where the long frond-like needles of the Canary Island pine trap water molecule by molecule. This then forms in small droplets that drip down onto the volcanic ground. This is the starting point of the fundamental water cycle that irrigates some of the most interesting parts of these islands. Where many species of birds take refuge in search of a drink and a bath. Indeed, it is thought that it was birds that brought the first pine tree seeds from the Mediterranean when these islands were no more than distant, blazing volcanoes. The Canary Island pine was one of the first species to conquer the Canary Islands 15 million years ago. Their continental ancestors were driven to extinction by dramatic climate changes caused by glaciations. Today, the species' closest relative is more than 6,000 kilometers away, the Himalayan pine. Here in the Canaries, a very small area of pine forest is enough to provide a home to a wide range of animals. On the island of Gran Canaria, the giant lizard is the largest of the archipelago's reptiles, at 80 centimeters in length. Flies are comfortable flitting around the lizard's large jaws. In such a dry environment, you find a drink wherever you can, even in the eyes and mouths of others. This large-headed lizard lives in open clearings in the pine groves, where it feeds mostly, and despite its terrifying appearance surprisingly, on plants. In fact, The older these lizards get, the more vegetarian their diet becomes. Like the lizards of varying sizes, the canary pines thrive in rocky, steeply sloping, almost vertical areas. Here they will grow up to 50 meters tall. In their lush canopy, Barbary falcons that live among the volcanic rocks where the pines grow will occasionally perch. This is a rare endemic hawk, a close relation of the peregrine falcon, which hunts other birds for its survival. It will, now and then, take refuge among the long, flexible needles. These narrow leaves trap water, but in another part of the pine tree, the bark, other secrets hide. The bark of the Canary Island pine allows the tree to survive the devastating fires caused by volcanic eruptions and lightning. The canary pine is an exception among conifers. After a fire, it will be reborn from the ashes. Its secret is the more than 8 centimeter thick layer of bark which protects the cells inside the tree, allowing them to sprout again after a fire. This environmental adaptation to fire eliminates diseased trees and promotes the germination of new pine trees. But the thick, cracked bark also turns out to be the home of a myriad of curious creatures. What fire cannot penetrate, some insects can. Canary great-spotted woodpeckers know that insects abound here, and they patrol the pines frequently, looking for food, or simply to use the branches as an anvil to help in cracking open the toughest seeds, such as almonds. The Canary Island pine clearly has many uses. Every part of the tree holds something for the community of animals that live in the pine forest. When they fall to the ground, enormous pine cones attract ravens. They're full of treasures, such as small invertebrates and their eggs. Even while they are green and still on the branches, woodpeckers will attack them in search of their delicious and nutritious seeds. Around the large pine forest, away from the moisture and the best terrain, canary pines will also grow. In these harsher territories, the ground has very little organic matter. But even there, in the middle of the wastes of ash and volcanic rubble, small pine trees capable of colonizing the most desolate territories will sprout. And with them, the ever-present ravens. These intelligent and adaptable birds somehow find ways to survive in very inhospitable places. Digging and sifting the volcanic ash where little vegetation can grow, they find enough to survive. Pine trees and ravens, two extraordinarily resilient species, hardy and versatile, able to make the most of the slightest opportunity. This is the reason for their success in these islands of extremes, where opposing worlds live side by side. One baked dry by the beating sun. Another bathed by gentle, water-bearing clouds born in the ocean. And in both of these worlds, one of the toughest and most exclusive trees on the planet grows, the Canary Island pine, whose long journey began 135 million years ago, besieged by fire and caressed by clouds. Gallery forests are dense woodlands that border fluvial channels in the most varied landscapes of both northern and southern hemispheres. One of the wildest and best preserved examples is found in the delta of the River Danube. Like all classic gallery forests, it is an elongated labyrinth that extends for dozens of kilometers along the various waterways and channels of the great river's mouth. In general terms, these forests are found alongside water channels in temperate or dry environments, forming green belts that are cool and refreshing even in the hottest, driest seasons. They're ecosystems that serve as a refuge from drier, more hostile environments. Here, both water and cooler temperatures are guaranteed. They could be thought of as oases, inhabited by a varied and abundant flora and fauna. The trees that make up this forest are very special. They thrive in humid, fertile soils and can tolerate the seasonal floods caused by spring rains and thaws. Generally, ash, willow and poplar grow to considerable sizes, producing beautiful canopies that are vitally important to gregarious birds, such as rooks, which form extensive colonies in the topmost branches. They're also vital for some water birds, such as these cormorants. These birds, which are excellent divers, are often born in the forests that surround rivers and wetlands. But the Gallery Forest is not just a good place to be born. These riparian forests may become the last refuge of large animals, such as the wild horses of the Letea forest. According to legend, these horses, descendants of the Tartar horses of Genghis Khan, survived being fiercely hunted thanks to the extensive and impregnable forests of the Danube Delta. Today, the horses of the Danube Delta are some of the few wild species left in Europe. Around 3,000 horses survive today, maintaining a fragile balance with the forest. Their herds, growing in number, consume too many plants, some of which are in danger of extinction. The Danube Delta, located in Romania, is one of the last natural paradises in Europe. This heterogeneous territory is made up of forests, marshes and swamps, inhabited by 1,200 plant species, 300 bird species, and 45 species of freshwater fish. The forest grows or shrinks with the river itself, so that temporary lakes, forests and reed beds mix. It is the perfect place for the golden jackal. The golden jackal is a predator that looks not unlike the wolf. The smaller jackal, however, is not a serious threat to the wild horses, as it prefers smaller prey and carrion. Numerous bodies lie scattered around the floodplain, victims of the last flood. The jackal's sense of smell guides them, even if the carcasses are hidden under the earth deposited by the river. Egrets thrive in all kinds of wetland environments. Their hunting technique is very effective. Patient and tenacious hunters, they wade in the shallows, stirring up the sludge that lies among the roots and the fallen logs with their feet. It's there that small river fish take refuge. They almost always come away with prey, capturing a good number of small fish, insects and tadpoles with relative ease. This mixed ecosystem, combining as it does land and water, produces such a high biomass, including frogs, mollusks and invertebrates, that the glossy ibis, which build their colonies on the riverbanks in the forests of the mostly southerly regions of the continent, are well supplied with food. These small wading birds with curved beaks and dark plumage frequent the humid environments of estuaries and deltas. Their young, which have a quite different appearance, coexist peacefully with their distant relatives, the little egrets. Little egrets form huge colonies in the riverside forests, sharing their territory with other species of heron. Little egrets are by far the noisiest of the species. At this stage of their life, the trees that make up the dense gallery forests are essential to them, providing materials for their nests, seclusion, and security. The little egret's city in the trees is barely short of madness. Some are in heat, while at the same time others are busy building nests. The males gather the vegetable matter for the nests. The females then make the messy construction. At the same time, some will be incubating eggs and others feeding their young in what appears to be a ferocious struggle. These common swans, pristine as ever in their white plumage, are in heat. They form stable pairs, mating for life. The swan's breeding season is in spring, from March to April. The pair selects their spot on the shore of a lake or riverbank and will defend it ferociously against all intruders. Spring is a critical time in the gallery forest. The trees produce millions of airborne seeds. The creatures that live within the forest and in the surrounding areas benefit from the wealth of food, the warm temperatures, and the abundance of water. Storms are frequent. So it's time to disappear. Temperatures drop, and the riverbanks, floodplains, and meadows are generously watered. After the storm, the interior of the forest throbs with life. This female red-footed falcon is finishing the nest. Meanwhile, her partner is hunting, bringing her gifts of insects and small animals to strengthen their bond. The penduline tit is intimately linked with the gallery forest. It always builds its nest hanging from the branches of trees, usually using the feathery seeds and twigs of poplars. The males are polygamous and begin building several nests at the same time. Each will then be finished with a different partner. The completed nests look like fluffy socks, with a long entrance tunnel to prevent hungry predators from getting in. In addition to a home, the gallery forest provides plenty of food for many species of small birds. On the aquatic edge of the forest, the swan's cygnets have hatched, still unsure of their surroundings, which up till now has been their nest on a large mound. But now, it's time to discover the world. Ever accompanied by their attentive parents, the cygnets learn to find the aquatic plants and small animals that constitute their diet. The family will remain together for 4 or 5 months, and even in many cases, into the following spring. The swan's menu includes frogs and newts, found in abundance around the riverbank. And now, after an exciting first day out of the nest, it's time to rest. The wild horses of Latea follow the same rhythm of life as the swans and other birds of the gallery forest. Their foals have already been born, and now the herd is looking for juicy new pastures in which to feed and play. The forest ecosystem and its environs provide the mares with succulent grass that they transform into the highly nutritious milk that helps the foals grow healthy and strong. The herd shares its home with the butterflies of the meadow and with the geese, which forage near the water. Not far away, the jackals have found a large stranded fish. The competition for this meal will be fierce. Hooded crows and magpies want their share of the bounty. Eating in these conditions can be very bothersome, and the jackals are not willing to share the feast. The jackal's bad temper and aggression is enough to drive off the rest of the diners. This species is confident enough to deal with even the vultures and hyenas that share its territory. Eagles observe the fights, preferring for the time being not to enter into the fray. When the mood is more relaxed, the eagles decide it's time to take advantage of the extensive menu that the river offers. The jackals cannot stand their ground when faced with this large predator, who is unconcerned by the assaults of its starving neighbors. Eagles, golden jackals, swans, penduline tits. The gallery forest provides hospitality and protection to all without distinction. The gallery forests of the planet's temperate environments, such as that of the Danube Delta, are special woodlands that multiply the river's capacity to promote life, as they hold water, generate food, and provide homes and protection for an Around the Mediterranean Sea, from the Black Sea to the Pyrenees, a strange puzzle of fir trees has taken refuge among remote mountains. But it is only in Andalusia and northern Morocco that the pinsapo survives. The Abies pinsapo, or Spanish fir, is a vestige that, together with other primitive firs, took advantage of the cold climates of the Ice Age to populate the regions around the Mediterranean. When the Earth began to heat up and rains drastically decreased, the majority of these firs disappeared. Those that survived, such as the Spanish fir, were left isolated in the mountains. As a consequence of these climatic changes, Spanish fir forests are found in remote, cold, mountainous locations. They're so remote, in fact, that they were not known to science until the 19th century. Hidden away on the austere slopes, the Spanish fir has become a mountain tree. On the cold, rainy heights of certain Andalusian mountains, the environmental conditions that have allowed the Spanish fir not to disappear forever have endured. And in these harsh, remote regions, the pinsapo shares its home with many other special creatures that require peace and sanctuary in order to survive. Here, one of the most numerous colonies of griffon vultures on the European continent not only survives, but is indeed growing. This is just one of many predators that fly above the pinsapos throughout the year. Trees and animals have learned to live here in these special conditions. The fauna associated with the Spanish fir and its landscapes is very varied. Some of its inhabitants are from as far south as Africa. Others are visitors from the north. The genet is a small carnivore indigenous to Africa that has adapted to the dense pinsapo forests. It commonly feeds on different species of birds, some of which only reach these woodlands in spring. Here in the pinsapo forest, they share their territory, their lives intertwined as part of a complex ecological network. Heavy with moisture, winds blow from the Atlantic Ocean and ascend the mountains of the southeast of the Iberian Peninsula. They are responsible for making this one of the wettest places in the south of Europe, despite its being in the middle of a dry and extreme environment. Each year, clouds dump between 2,000 and 3,000 millimeters of rain per square meter, enough for the very demanding Spanish fir to grow. The pinsapo forests, despite being geographically remote, are visited by many winged friends. The red crossbill, one of the world's most original birds with its bizarrely curved beak. Its beak is a unique adaptation that allows the crossbill to exploit nutritious pine seeds exclusively, given that no other animal can access them. Thanks to this crossed bill, it can open the scales of pine cones and remove the seeds protected inside. Crossbills travel thousands of kilometers in search of pine seeds. And the remote and remarkable Andalusian pinsapos are on their flight path. Siskins often accompany crossbills, and similarly know how to take advantage of the ripening pine cones of the pinsapos. In order to obtain the water and coolness they need, Spanish firs grow at altitudes of between 1,000 and 1,800 meters in the mountains of Andalusia. As a precautionary measure, they seek out the wetter, shadier slopes, which protect them from the harsh summer heat that beats down in the south of the peninsula. It's in the shade where the pinsapo forests reach their maximum splendor. The Spanish firs that the Siskins frequent have resisted in locations well away from the threat of man's axe, livestock, heat and drought. And that very same strategy has been taken up by many of its companions. Spanish ibex are wild goats that live isolated in the more rugged areas of the Iberian Peninsula. In these Andalusian mountains, a significant population of these unique animals shelters. Like all goats, ibex can exploit the harshest of ecosystems to the full. They eat everything: dried grasses, lichens that grow on rocks, and even an occasional pinsapo branch. The fauna that lives in and around the pinsapo forest does so, in many cases, at a distance from the influence of man. It is here that some of the last Egyptian vultures on the Iberian Peninsula also survive. The Egyptian vulture is strange even among its relatives. Its plumage is unusually striking for a bird of prey, being predominantly white. But its most remarkable feature is the yellow skin on its face and bill. The yellower it is, the more attractive the male is to the opposite sex. An indicator of physical prowess. It's believed that the intensity of the yellow color depends on the bird's diet. To achieve maximum intensity, the birds must ingest the excrement of other animals, especially that of herbivores like the ibex. The droppings contain a high proportion of carotenoids, which the herbivores cannot synthesize. The carotenoids are ingested in the food and help create orange, or as in the case of the Egyptian vulture, yellow pigments in certain parts of the body. So, because of their droppings, the ibex are of great importance for these unusual vultures. But they are of even greater interest to the griffon vultures. These goats, despite their sturdy, rotund appearance, are extremely agile and can jump and climb the steepest slopes and cliffs. Their hooves have special pads that allow them to grip onto and ascend smooth surfaces. But even so, they do not always escape fatal accidents. For the griffons, it is of considerable fortune to come across a dead ibex. The corpses of the goats and of other animals sustain one of the largest colonies of griffon vultures in Europe, sharing the stage with the Spanish firs. The vultures, in turn, are responsible for keeping the territory free of the stink of rotting corpses, which can become a source of infection. They need no more than a few hours to dispose of the remains of any of the inhabitants of these mountains. The relatively benign temperatures of the region where the pinsapos grow, with seasonal differences ranging from 2 degrees Celsius below zero in winter to 22 degrees in summer, mean that neither snow nor cold last too long. This climatological benevolence has allowed garden dormice to settle here. The garden dormouse is an opportunist rodent that knows how to take advantage of the ecological resources offered by the Andalusian pinsapos. The cones of the Spanish fir dispense their seeds from up in the branches, little by little, exposing the large seeds inside. The seeds of Spanish firs have a very large wing that allows them to fly considerable distances from their parent tree. These seeds, which are dispersed through the pinsapo forest and its environs, are a highly sought-after food source for countless animals, including the dormouse. The pinsapo forests provide many environments suitable for small fauna. Their fallen logs offer safety, and their low and dense branches give small predators excellent hiding places. The genet, a small predator of subtropical origin, is perfectly adapted to life in the forest firs. Genets are relative newcomers to the peninsula, having arrived barely more than 1,000 years ago when introduced by Arab conquerors. Spanish firs, in contrast, are a relic from much longer ago, the Tertiary era. Even so, the genets have prospered. The pinsapos have given them a safe and comfortable home, and the small hunter has paid the forest back by eliminating a large number of troublesome rodents found within the labyrinth of long branches that reach down to the forest floor. Another of the genet's possible prey is a little owl no bigger than a handspan. Scops owls arrive here in spring. Scops owls dwell among the branches of the fir, nesting in cavities in the tree trunks. The size of the Spanish fir, reaching up to 30 meters in height, offers many possibilities. Scops owls are experts in hunting large insects and so help control the populations of invertebrates in the Pinsapo forest. The gradual increase in temperatures activates insects. And a fearsome predator lurks in the branches of the Spanish firs. The empusa, half mantis, half cockroach. The empusa has an insatiable appetite and is a formidable hunter. This fly has had the misfortune to cross the empusa's path. And as soon as the empusa finishes its meal, it sets off in search of the next. A diminutive fly is no more than an appetizer for this voracious insect. A complex network of relationships that involves ibex, crossbills and genets extends through the branches and trunks of the Spanish fir and its vicinity. Even the small rivers that run through the Pinsapo's territory have become the last refuge of species such as the white-clawed river crayfish. The clean waters of the streams that traverse the Pinsapo forests host one of the best preserved populations of this crayfish. Here it does not suffer from invading American red swamp crayfish or the plagues of fungi that sweep through the rest of the territory. On the other side of the Strait of Gibraltar, in the Reef Mountains, Pinsapos also grow. The summits of these Moroccan mountains have, like those in Andalusia, become the last refuge of a number of species that have disappeared across wide geographical areas. Mythical animals that little by little are making their return to the wild mountains of Andalusia. The bearded vulture, or lammergeier. The lammergeier complete the food chain in the Pinsapo forests, eliminating the last remains that the Egyptian and griffon vultures have left behind. All are integral to life in the unique mountains of the Spanish fir, sheltering a special fauna and flora. A singular place where the warm south becomes cool and wet, where extraordinary refugees of nature from millions of years in the past still survive.